from Power 102 Digital.
It is Wednesday, the 12th of June, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is News to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Finance Minister Colm Imbe is accusing the leader of the opposition, Kanu Prasad-Bissessar, of political dishonesty in her claims that government intends to raise revenues by raising value-added tax VAT and imposing other punitive measures on citizens. He made the statements when he opened debate on the Finance Supplementary Appropriation Bill financial year 2024 in the Senate yesterday. The House of Representatives passed a bill commonly referred to as the mid-year review on the budget on June 7th. The bill approved a $2.3 billion supplementation to the 2024 fiscal package. Prasad-Bissessar first made the claims of increased taxes during debate on a motion in the House on June 7th to approve a report from its Standing Finance Committee to approve the supplementation. She said she got her information from a Finance Ministry document. The Prime Minister also rejected her claims later in that debate. No decision has been taken to form a new water management company in Trinidad and Tobago. Confirmation of this from Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez. He told the Senate yesterday, Tuesday, with respect to the proposed restructuring of WASA, the Water and Sewage Authority. Several reports had indicated the utility's top management is overstaffed and needs to be reduced. There is a transformation plan for WASA, and top management structure of 34 leadership positions have been approved by a Human Resource Committee of Cabinet, which is still determining the compensation packages for these positions. Questions over whether 3,000 WASA workers are expected to be separated or retrenched in the restructuring plans by WASA. Minister Gonzalez visited what happened in this issue in 2013 when the People's Partnership government was in office. The government of Trinidad and Tobago plans to take legal action against the purported owner or owners of the Tug Solar Creed and the barge Gulf Stream, which were involved in the oil spill, which took place in February this year in Tobago. Minister of Energy and Energy Industry, Stuart Young, provided the update in the Senate yesterday, Tuesday, during the question and answer period. Minister Young was asked to provide a comprehensive update on the search for the owners of the vessel and the owners of the original vessel reported to be towing the barge. He also gave an update on the status of the cleanup. The man who allegedly left his 3-year-old daughter in a car while he went into the Price Mart shopping facility in Laramine has been charged with cruelty to a child. Wendell Kareem Mohammed, 56, of Lal Bihari Trace Penal, yesterday faced High Court Master Shabana Shah. The charge was laid by P.C. Maynard. Mohammed was represented by attorneys Ramesh Dina and Christian Dina, who asked for bail for their client. Prosecutor Cleon Sidan made no objection. Mohammed was placed in a $30,000 bail with the condition he reports to the San Fernando police station once a week. The matter was transferred to the Magistrates Court for July 16th. Mohammed is expected to enter a plea on that day. It was last Sunday the child was allegedly left in a car in the basement car park of Price Mart in Laramine. The windows of the car were allegedly half down, and the child was found screaming by a security guard. 4.3% of children between the ages of 5 and 17 are involved in child labor in this country. That's 4 out of every 100 children in that age group. The information revealed by Minister of Labor ahead of Wednesday's observance of World Day Against Child Labor. The information was collected following a multiple indicator cluster survey conducted by the Central Statistical Office in collaboration with UNICEF in 2022. Despite significant progress, an estimated 160 million children are still engaged in child labor worldwide. There will be a review of legislation that governs dog control, stray dogs, and dangerous dogs. This is being done to make necessary amendments or upgrades to ensure effectiveness. This is one of 7 measures taken to address the issue of stray dogs and dog control, according to Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Dr. Amory Brown. He provided details on this area in response to a question posed in the Senate, given public concerns about the rising numbers of stray dogs in Trinidad and Tobago and the lack of facilities to take care of them. The government was asked to provide the reasons for the inefficient execution of duties by regional bodies in collection and caring for stray dogs across the country, and what measures were being taken to address the inefficiencies and care. Low fertility rates, aging, and non-communicable diseases, limited opportunities for youth, and out-migration have emerged as some of the latest demographic trends in the Caribbean region. These and other issues of importance of Caribbean population are at the forefront of a global policy dialogue among a panel of experts which took place at the 4th International Conference in Small Island Developing States, SIDS, in Antigua and Barbuda. It was hosted by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and discussion centered on the findings of the UNDESA report, Population Prospects for Countries in Special Situations. And finally, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen says she is fulfilling her duties as the country's leader, but is not yet fully recovered after last week's street attack. The Prime Minister was struck by a man who walked up to her in Copenhagen on Friday evening. Ms. Frederiksen is said to have experienced whiplash after the incident. The attack was not considered politically motivated. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
And welcome to the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. It is 6.5 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock on this, the 12th day of June. And as Paul said in our newscast, it is World Day Against Child Labor. So good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, on the show, we just heard from Dr. Paul Richards. We'll hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh, Wendell Stephen. We got Ruben and Shane in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. Taking a look at what's happening on the highways and on the byways. I tell you, yes, I hope it's a lot lighter than yesterday for sure. Nothing to tell you about in San Fernando, Charlieville, towards the interchange. You've got some traffic, usual stuff, Trinity UE. Little volume as you pass through Aranguez, El Scuro, but from Barataria is where you're going to pick up your traffic. Building in Maraval by Mocha, and of course, out of Dago, nothing to tell you about. It is 26 degrees at Piarco, 27 at Crown Point. Good morning to you, Pablo.
Morning, Steve. Morning, everyone.
Morning, buddy. What's happening? What's happening?
I'm sleepy.
I am too as well. I am as well.
Another reason. I finished work at 11:30 last night. What time did you finish work?
Yeah, I was in and out of sleep. My lovey is still not well. I have to take her back to the vet. She may have to stay overnight tonight. So I was, in and out, making sure, our pets are like our family. So I was quite worried. Still am. So that had me up. So I didn't have a good sleep at all last night. But yeah, stress, I tell you. Pets. Yeah, let's use Sunday's hellos first thing this morning. We love you. Make our day when you do that. DJ Ray out in Delaware. Wayne B in Covenant, Georgia. Garcilia in Valencia. Boy Badesi out in Davie. Wendy and James. D. Pierre. Maria Celia. Marcia Rock in Orlando, CJ New York. Good morning. Shuin Kerr, John Cato, Rena Budu Jennings, Gloria Gray, Michael Robinson. He's in Yokohama, Japan. Dwayne Sylvester, Hector, Shanifa Ali. Shanifa, I won't be able. I'm at 8 o'clock. I'm leaving the studio, so I won't be able to contact you at that time. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida, where they're soaked. Wayne Ramsey, Carol Guevara, Cheryl Charles, Donna Clark, David Wares, and of course Mrs. Wares, Carol Joseph. Good morning to you all. On WhatsApp, Sankofa, Dan Raj, Trevin Arima, somebody else sent a message here. I don't know what it is. GNC Auto Security. Michael out in London. Good morning. Yeah, so good morning to you all. Hope you guys have a great day today. And thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show. All right. Good morning to you, Wendell, Stephen.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe, especially our listeners and viewers in Egypt, Cairo in Egypt. Good morning.
All right.
Good
Vincent
afternoon.
in the UK, good morning. Val Sugarguanas, good morning.
Happy birthday. Let me get my birthday greeting. I want to get a soapbox moment this morning, right? Happy birthday to, well, she's now deceased, Marina Huggins, my first wife, actually. Madian Mahon, happy birthday. June Winston, Brentley Allen, Juliet Annan, they're all celebrating birthdays today. Yesterday was Roxanne Phillips' birthday. Happy birthday, Roxanne. Yesterday would have been Carlisle Bab's birthday. He's deceased. Yesterday also was the birthday of Bishop Stephen Wilson and Ayana Moriah. And Kirk Waite also celebrated his birthday yesterday. And my cousin
Really?
Terry. Yeah, Kirk Waite's birthday was yesterday also. All right. I still get messages from Kirk Waite from time to time, you know.
So do I.
Yeah.
Right.
I still get messages from him. Not the kind that he used to send back then with fixing TNT, but I still get messages from TCM. TCM is his business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get messages.
So he's no longer fixing TNT.
No, well, he was always fixing people when they shut down and thing. But that was an intense moment from Kurt Wake at one time, you know. God, he used to come in Power 102 all the time.
Yeah.
He was
like how your battery went dead, Paul, they will come and put a new battery in your car and off you go, you know.
Yeah. But he has a good business model, and his how should I put it? His service is excellent. I've not heard anything bad about it.
It's excellent. I don't know if he's still with fixing TNT. You know, we haven't heard from him. And
it don't have a fixing TNT again.
It doesn't. Okay, there you go, Paul.
I don't think it has one. So give me a soapbox moment, guys.
It was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I know. Give me a soapbox moment. You know, because I don't work on the Power Breakfast Show every day, I have a chance to listen to the show when I'm not there. And I have this crazy habit now sometimes of replaying shows, going back on YouTube and looking at shows, and I laugh, I enjoy shows sometimes when I look back at it. Yesterday, however, I was listening, and for the first time in a long while, Power Breakfast Show get me upset. At Paul Richards in particular, I say, when the poll come up, the time for the poll come up, and the poll question was about Kamla Persad-Bissessar going on a political platform and talking about the VAT being the government, a cabinet note coming to discuss the increase in VAT. I said, what is this I'm hearing? And then she then we said on the news, I think, or somewhere along in the article, we said that the Prime Minister immediately rubbished it. But it still went ahead as the poll. I said, okay, maybe, I mean, we have done polls before that not everybody likes, but I particularly didn't like that poll. But I say, okay, maybe they know something I don't know. Maybe Mrs. Persad-Bissessar knows something we don't know. You understand? And she was quoting the cabinet note and so on, the number of the cabinet note. So I say, okay, let me see where it goes. But then I saw an article after coming out from Minister Cormimbert that said the leader of the opposition is a dangerous liar. Now, those are serious words. She says she has proof that the government intends to increase VAT. However, all she has is calculations showing the effect on revenue of decreasing or increasing taxes. And I think he went on to explain that what they got, the document that they got was that if we increase VAT by 1%, this is what it will happen. And if we decrease VAT by 1%, this is what we'll lose. If we increase personal income tax by so on, and I'm saying, well, okay, we had to poll that. Maybe that's the answer for us to poll now. Do you think that Kamla Persad-Bissessar, according to Minister Imbert, well, I won't use his words, is a stranger to the truth? He used dangerous liar. You understand? By putting that out there in the public domain, because it was clearly meant for mischief. which is what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is known to do, wave pieces of paper and say she have this and she have that. You understand? So for the first time in a long while, I got upset yesterday, and I got upset, So I just thought I should let you all know, and I should let Paul know. I know he mightn't agree with me, but that's all right. That poll was thankfully, I don't know how the poll results then because I didn't listen, but I'm sure the majority would not have agreed with her. I think we have more sensible people here than we do not, But I just thought I should I just thought I should get that out of my craw this morning. But it was in my craw yesterday. I had a lot of things in my craw yesterday, but that was one. But I really do. I don't know if you guys ever get the opportunity to watch back at our show, but you should sometimes, You really should. I know the poll Friday, and I'm telling all you from now, the poll Friday is, do you think the Star Alliance team will sweep the polls in the internal elections? But the internal elections, I think it's Saturday, the Saturday after, Saturday coming. So I'm giving all the poll from now. But today, I would love the poll to be, if you think that the leader of opposition is a stranger to the truth. Colin Wood called her a dangerous liar in his missive. I won't use those words. We don't really use those words on our show, But that's what I'd like to see. A balancing of that poll yesterday that I thought was it upset me. Thank you. And that must be what caused all that rain yesterday. It rained non-stop here in Arima yesterday. I don't know what's going to happen today. Let's hope for a good day.
Yeah, it should be a mixed day today. You're not getting rain like what South Florida is getting. They had some serious rain. So
South Florida. Okay. All right. Well, I'm doing only going quiet. I finished.
Silence is a virtue.
I finished,
Sure.
Yeah. Today though is cricket at the Brian Lara Stadium, Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba. West Indies will be playing New Zealand today. I hope they get cricket. I'm not very hopeful. I don't know what the weather is like down south. You understand? But I hope they get to play that cricket match. I think it's tonight at 7:30 or thereabouts. I stand corrected. But it's a night game. I hope that they get cricket. Lord knows we need it.
The question came up yesterday. Well, the question I posed some weeks ago finally came up yesterday. Following our interview with the president of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals regarding the regional corporations and the stray dog situation. Remember, Mrs. Curvilla, sorry?
Curvilla, yes.
Would have told us that they have all but stopped doing their duties where stray dog is concerned. That's so?
Yes.
Well, I got one set of reread that answered no question.
From whom?
618.
Who did you have there? Local government minister?
No, someone answered on his behalf.
Where is he?
The answer, nothing was the same thing.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, because all these shelters are none.
So they give them this amount of money, and the regional corporations that work with the Trinidad and Tobago Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I said where? But the way the format is, you can't ask where. But
Yeah.
You get the answer in the policy book somewhere. The answer is get it in the policy book. You don't have that.
Yeah.
That way you get.
What the corporations do is go around with their plan.
Yeah. And they're looking at reviewing the laws and trading.
Yeah.
One set of nuance.
What the corporation would do is we call them the dog catcher. But we need to start charging people. Last week, a guy dropped a box of puppies outside TTSPCA with a small breed dog. He put another small breed dog in another box. Of course, when they got there, the small breed dog in the box was deceased. It died. People let out when they can't afford to care for their pets. They just open the gate and let them run. They carry them macareep. They let them go. You go to the bird sanctuary. There is hundreds of stray cats that people let out. And of course, a cat can have 3 or 4 litters a year. You know, there are people that donate. There are people that private citizens that what they call catch and release, catch, spay, neuter, and release to help control the population. But there are individuals who just look. For example, Lovey, my cat that I brought in last day that is not well right now. If I had put my hand to scratch her head, she will back off. If I wiggle my finger, she'll come to me, which meant to me that she was abused. She was abused. And she has x-rays had shown that she had blunt force trauma, which we gathered Monday that somebody had kicked her from where it was. Why people do that? Don't get me started, I'll get very upset. You know, so I'm glad they're going to bring this bill up and let's see where it goes.
Well, I saved another turtle in my area yesterday. Somehow or the other, whenever we have bad weather, I just happened to look outside yesterday from my window and I saw a turtle in the drain. So I don't know where they come from, but this is the 3rd turtle that I found in the drains around my area.
Yeah, they're great escape parties.
Yeah, and I went outside and I took him up and I put him with the others because I have an enclosure with them that and they love it and I feed them every day and so on, you know. And I got another stray turtle yesterday. So I have 5 now. You understand? But I like taking care of them. I like looking at them. As I said, the last one I had, though, I think I picked up a female.
I think strays know that you're kind, so they just walk
I think so
all the time.
But they have a good time by me.
I think
something like that.
This is a kind soul. This person is not going to stress me out much, and then they're going to take care of me and feed me and caress me and hug me and.
Well, Stephen doing too bad with his cat either, because you see when he wiggles his fingers, come to him.
Yeah, because if I do like this, she's not going before.
Steve, stop! Don't respond. It clearly went over your head.
I don't have a warped mind like you all. There's a halo above my head.
When you wiggle your finger by the cat, it comes, and you think you're not going to let it slide.
Yeah, I know. After I said it,
no pun intended. I didn't respond to it.
That's why I need to think before.
The man say when he try to scratch the cat is run. But when he wiggle his fingers go.
Yeah. I don't have a warped mind like you all.
And the cat suffered from blunt force trauma.
That's what the x-rays, that's what we came up with.
I don't know what Steve Candace be talking on the radio these hours of the morning.
I'm very worried about my cat.
Holy pussy cat. Holy pussy.
Right.
Oh, God.
Right.
You know, I am coming to the conclusion that this country is never going to find the owners of the Solo Creed or the Gulf Stream.
No.
The 2 ships that were involved in the oil spill in Tobago in February this year. I am coming to that conclusion more and more, that these people gone with the wind, never to be seen or heard from again. I feel they're finding them owners.
No, they're not finding them, and I don't know why. They're wasting our time coming to Parliament and talking all that thing. You know?
Well, that's not true, because a question was asked, so they have to come to respond to the question.
Well, you know, I'm being facetious when I say that, right? Because I feel sorry for Minister Young when he has to deal with this. Because I heard yesterday too that there are still 11,000 barrels of oil on the sunken.
Which is another question I asked yesterday. What is the status of the canting after all this time, instead of that amount of oil in this thing?
Yeah. But what are we, and maybe the question is, what are we doing to remove it safely?
He said, he responded and said that when there's bad weather, the persons who are doing the decanting have to stop.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Since February, March, April, May, June. I think
Well,
3 to 4 months.
But we now going into bad weather.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. But I don't feel they'd ever find you as an investment.
No.
Whatever they were doing was clearly legal, and whatever the point of origin is, it had no documentation, and the one that was pulling the one that stuck on the reef disappear and go on their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must be done dismantled wherever it is. It reached already. You know that?
And you know what? You know what?
To the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
Yeah. And they clearly say, well, okay, guys, this mission failed. Let me count with losses and move on, because they ain't gonna stop it.
And sink wherever vessel it was, so that nobody can find it. Because if they pack it in some port in South America somewhere, somebody go find it and gather evidence. So them done sink that already.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pity
after all this time.
Yeah, I don't think anything will come out of it, because I think TV6 asked that poll last night too. If they think we'll ever find the owners of this vessel, I don't know what the result was, but I don't know that they're gonna be found. You know.
I don't think so either. I doubt very much.
Yes. Morning, KG, whoever you are. Of course, we are the best. Steve and Richard, too.
The man who left his 3-year-old daughter in the car when he went into the Price Mart shopping facility in Laramie has been charged with cruelty to a child.
Listen, I read that story and I got so upset.
In this day and age.
In this day and age, I mean,
given what you've heard and read over years of children being left in vehicles and dying.
Yeah.
A 3-year-old left alone in a car. Imagine that. So you couldn't put a child on your shoulder at 3 and walking with your 2 other children to make sure all 3 were safe when you went to Price Mart. I mean, really?
I couldn't understand that. And then when they made the announcement, they said it took him 20 minutes before he came out. That must, it's 20 minutes waiting on someone after you stand by a car seeing a child in a car. It's 20 minutes waiting. 20 minutes like 200 hours. That's an eternity. That is so crazy.
So he saw nothing wrong. He said the child was, according to newspaper reports, he said the child was sleeping, so he didn't want to wake the child.
He needs psychiatric evaluation.
I agree with that. That head ain't screwing right.
No,
Yes,
all the tools not in that shed.
He's 56-year-old. His name is Kareem Mohammed.
Yeah, and he's
He was charged and placed on $30,000 bail. And the condition reports to the San Fernando Police Station once a week. The matter was transferred to the Magistrates Court for July 16th. He will enter a plea on that day. Where are you gonna plead? Not guilty?
Of course he is.
Then he might as well throw himself to the mercy of
I'm going to say the court.
Yeah.
And say I was dotish and I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
The case with the grandfather, though, who actually forgot the child in the car when he went to work. Whatever became of that? You remember the child died?
I didn't remember that. No idea.
He forgot the child in the back seat of the car. I don't know whatever became of that.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, don't believe I heard anything new about that. But if this Mr. Mohammed,
I think I've found a proper phrasing that's palatable for Wendell's question. It just entered my head.
grab it before it flies out.
It's my head, not your head.
No, we know you operate. That's why I said that. But if Mr. Mohammed had come back to the car and realized that child is unconscious, and subsequently, what do you say?
But he had left apparently some of the windows halfway down, which made it even, to me,
or another scenario, the child is kidnapped.
Yeah.
Your car is now stolen and gone somewhere. All the tools not in that shed.
Yeah, something is not right there. Mr. Mohammed, get help. Clearly, something is not right.
You know, common sense is not all that common. You take the other children, we leave this one in the car.
Yeah. Of course, the UNC internal elections coming up on Saturday, June 15th. So it'll be interesting this week here. I see Dr. Munilal. I know we didn't want to play the pundit, but every other news house play what he said and refer to what he said. And Dr. Munilal went after him on the platform Monday night. You know what I mean? That grandpa died. Okay, I didn't know about that.
Oh, he did.
And said he don't need no advice from the pundit, and the pundit is a PNM. And everybody knows a PNM, you know. Once you go against that slate, you're a PNM, you know. So Russian Parry is a PNM. Anita Haynes is a PNM. Rai Ragbe is a PNM. Rodney Charles is a PNM. And who's the fifth one? Who am I missing? Missing somebody else. Rai Ragbe, Rodney Charles, Anita Haynes, Russian Parry, and I'm missing somebody. I'm still missing somebody.
Is that okay?
Let me check. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's as diplomatic as you could. That's fine. Because the front page of today's headlines also says Minister Imbert accuses her of lies and dishonesty. Yeah? So I'll go with that. You know, that's the front page of today's Guardian. Lies, accuses opposition of lies and political dishonesty. But Mrs. Prasad says, I mean, she'll still be the leader regardless of what happens after this election. You understand? She'll still be the leader of the party. But she is going to, I am hoping that some change comes within the UNC so that the politics can shake up. Because when PNM ready, I'm gonna make some noise too. And some people in that PNM need to just take a back seat.
Like?
You're not going to get me to say that, Paul. When the time comes, I'm going to say it. You understand? Maybe Minister Imbert might be one.
What?
You understand? Because Lord knows I have to come to his defense this time because it was political dishonesty by the opposition leader. And you're going on your internal election platform to spout that nonsense. Come on, man. Fear mongering. You don't have to do nothing to get UNC people votes.
Right. The question done type.
I see.
222 talk. What is it? 222-8255. If you're in North America, toll free 866-525-1099. And you can send direct WhatsApp messages to 868-318-1021. Do not call the WhatsApp number. It's only for messages. We're opening the phones when Steve returns with his wiggly fingers. He wiggly finger. And what you said the cat do?
Cat. No, you say when you try to scratch the cat. When you try to scratch the cat's head, it runs. But when he wiggles his fingers, it comes.
Okay.
Those were Steve Khan's words there, people.
You ever try that?
I will watch over this program and laugh.
You ever try that?
You me? Me and Kat do agree. I like turtles and fish. And dogs. I had dogs. I never minded a cat. Never. Never.
So that's coming to your abode and mind yourself?
Yeah, clearly. No, I don't encourage cats. I go crazy when I see a cat.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't like them. I just
You
don't
sure?
like them.
You don't like them? What?
Nah, go
I'm
crazy.
surprised to hear that.
You have a cat coming here and sleeping in my porch. Oh,
But they
nothing
shouldn't
could
be in the porch. They
upset
should
me
be
more than
inside
that.
the house. They shouldn't be sleeping in the porch.
Them cats like stray dogs around here, you know. They digging in your garbage and thing, you know.
Or your cat's digging your garbage.
Yeah.
Morning, Richard.
Hi, good morning,
Save
guys.
me, please.
If what?
Steve say when he wiggle his finger, the cat just come. But when he scratch his head, cat head is run. When they say he and cat don't get along at all.
What I will say is that my dogs will kill any cat that enters the yard.
So your dogs are like cat.
No. And there have been several dead cats found. Sometimes, you know, they slip. If they slip, they slide.
By you.
Yeah.
I wonder if his dogs is a reflection of the owner.
Yeah, man.
When you say any dog, any cat enter the yard, dead, you know, so.
We should have high walls, so I.
222 talk.
Yeah, let's open up the lines. We have some calls coming through already, so let's grab them. Good morning, caller. Oopsie, not there. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, David Wells. Yes, it was too easy. Buenos dias.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
If I am in order this morning, look at all the good news. Imagine that. Stray dog and cat. Wendell,
Zena.
I think that's why you are single. You're afraid of cats. You must have.
I'm not afraid of them, but I just don't like. I just never took to minding cats. That's all.
So you don't like.
I've had a lot of pets, but I've never done cats.
All right, okay. And I can understand. And Steve, that cat, is it a male or a female?
Female.
Oh, that's why I like that wiggling of the finger. I could understand. All right. Well, I just saying morning now till the show heat up. I just saying what good news all you have just about pets and mining. Well, let me hear you now. What pets you have?
2 dogs. I used to have a lot of cats.
Right. Thank you. Did you all hear of that story of this woman who they attempted to hijack her car? I'm trying to see if I see the story in the newspapers. That story was a little incredulous last time when I heard it on news. A version of the story is that her car
I have a call, Richard.
Let me take this call and we'll come to that. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Good morning, my dear.
Good morning, Richard, and good morning, Wendell.
Good morning, Ms. Darby.
So here it is now. Richard, Wendell, so everybody doesn't understand by now that the modus operandi of Ms. Pamela Prasad is to wave people. She should be the waving queen, you know. She better than Super Blue. You know? Because that is all she does, and people really believe. So I want to find out something. The Express ran its story, but did they have a copy of that information? The real information, that is?
The Express published a document day before yesterday. A document.
Okay.
The document purported to be what was in the possession of the leader of the opposition.
And that is what I can't understand. So if that was so, didn't they confirm it with the minister or somebody in the Ministry of Finance? They just ran with the story?
Well, they said that they were reporting on what the leader of the opposition was saying. That's what they were doing. They said this is the document she was waving around, and this is what she said. There's nothing wrong with that they're reporting on it.
They report, right? But you see, it doesn't have facts because last night, you know, I thought, you know,
and the Minister of Finance, well, the Prime Minister first in the House Friday debunked it, and then the Minister of Finance also debunked it last night.
Yes, I heard Dr. Ravi talk about it on Friday, saying she's not speaking the truth. And then
he was doing a job. The leader of the opposition said this is X and Y. They report it. Why they can't report it?
They reported a lie, Paul. That's why.
It's the first lie they report from politicians.
So, and you know something, and you know she will get away with that, eh?
We won't see anybody saying anything against what she said. That is not going to stay alive. It will be bandied about, body beaten until it's found truthful. So anyway, Richard, and a surprise, a story you can get right. Get some good saltfish accra right now that I'm making. Right
Some
now.
what?
Saltfish accra. I love saltfish accra.
I love saltfish.
Yeah, you say that all the time.
You have good saltfish? You make good saltfish, I mean?
Saltfish accra making.
Don't put it with the flour. Just leave it just so.
Yeah, I know. You could put it in a little because it wouldn't be so. It wouldn't bind too good, you know.
Nah, I like it by itself. Don't mix it up with no flour. You're dampening the taste.
You all have a wonderful day.
You soak it?
All right. Thank
I
you.
can begin to
Miss
tell
Dabney,
you.
you soak it first?
It's salty.
Nah, you soak it a little bit. Nah.
It's salty.
Soak
Like
your saltfish a little bit. Yeah, soak your saltfish a little bit first before you make the accra.
Okay. I'll have a good day.
You
All right.
can't you give me saltfish is all that salt.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, soak your saltfish first, you know. Good morning, sir.
Yes, I would just like to say a special good morning to you all. And Richard, for that wonderful show in Tobago last week.
Oh, thank you.
It was really good, really good. Richard was really the star of that show.
Yes, he worked hard.
Really good. Richard, when are you coming again?
We're hoping to come back sometime later on this year. I'm not too sure when. Either in July or August.
Richard, your name called in the Senate last night.
Thank you, caller.
In the Senate.
Senator Hazel Thompson, I said I went to Richard Ragoobarsingh's show Love is a Walk and I had a good time. It's on the hand side now. Love is a walk on the hand side.
You believe that?
You make it into the chamber last night.
Yeah. Like coming back to the story, Richard, with the lady in the car.
Right. So I heard the story last night of this woman that was attempted to be hijacked. They took some stuff from her and they wanted to take her car. And she threw her keys in the bushes. And they jumped into Tida and decided to drive off. And she went back in the bushes, get her car, follow the bandits, follow them, and then crash her car into them to stop them. And the police, I think, arrested one. And I was saying, but what the hell?
Yeah. Apparently, they went to the police station to make a report.
And they went to the police station to make a report about the accident.
And then they realized that this fella was involved, in the accident, and that he was also involved in March last year of another carjacking. So he was arrested one time.
I thought that story so incredulous, but I was looking for it. But she's actually a Coast Guard officer, which kind of puts it a little bit in perspective.
But where did that happen?
In McCoy.
El Dorado, that area there.
Okay.
She chased after a group of men who robbed her at gunpoint in El Dorado, and resulting in the arrest of one of the suspects. At about 8:25 p.m. on Monday, the foursome, I made a mistake, it's not 43, it's 42. Apologies, ma'am. The 42-year-old woman was seated in her Kia Sportage, which was parked on Rickson Street in El Dorado, when she was confronted by two men, one of whom had a firearm. The men announced a holdup and demanded the keys to the vehicle. The victim got out and threw the keys to the SUV into a bushy area of the road. She then raised an alarm and ran away. On reaching a safe distance, she notified the police. She saw the bandits searching for the keys, but they could not locate them. They then entered the SUV and stole an iPhone Max Pro, well, they didn't put the button number, and ran a short distance away. And where they entered a golden Nissan Tida, before being driven by another man. The woman then ran and found the keys she had thrown and pursued the Tida. On reaching McCoy Road, she drove her vehicle into the Tina, then raised an alarm, and people in the area came to her assistance. Officers from Tunapuna Police Station responded, and both drivers, as well as the two vehicles involved in the incident, were taken to the station. While giving their reports, a search of the driver's name was discovered, and it was discovered that he was the suspect in a larceny of a vehicle which occurred on March 23rd. Isn't that?
So the guys and them didn't realize it's the same woman come back and hit them with the car. They thought it's just a random accident. No.
Maybe. I don't know.
But I would advise everyone not to do that. She's very lucky.
Oh my God. I was like,
yes, because they had a gun.
Mhm.
yeah.
All right,
She was-
Richard, do you have newspapers?
Yes, I do.
Oh, lovely. Well, let's get in the headlines of all three dailies, shall we?
Yeah. When I heard that story last night, I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's brave but lucky.
Quite
Brave but lucky.
Well, the Daily
Funny.
Express for today, the front page, total untruth. Cotton blasts Camelon false claim of VAT increase. And there's an inset photo of the Minister of Finance. Ridiculous accusation. Minister of Finance, Colm Imber, moves the second reading of the Finance Supplementary Appropriation Financial Year 2024 Bill 2024 yesterday in Parliament. Schoolgirl raped in Tobago. FUL holder takes Earler to court, and child left in vehicle, father charged with cruelty. All of these are sub headlines. Rudder rallies for the West Indies. Calypso legend Calypsonian David Rudder sings his iconic song Rally Round the West Indies during his pre-performance rehearsal at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Truro. There's a picture of David Rudder. And on the back page of the Daily Express, high-stakes game. West Indies face Black Caps in crucial group stage encounter. Today's men's T20 World Cup matches. Group A, USA versus India in New York at 10:30 a.m. and West Indies versus New Zealand, Group C, in Aruba at 8:30 p.m., which is tonight.
8:30 p.m. you said, right?
8:30 p.m., yeah.
Okay.
And in the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian today, the headline, no VAT hike. Imber denies government's increasing rate to 15%, accuses opposition of lies and political dishonesty. Says cabinet note shows revenue calculations, not decision. UNC special voting starts today. And Belmont murder victims buried. And there's an inset photo of one of the deceased pallbearers take the body of Belmont murder victim Jonathan R. June into the St. Martin de Porres RC Church Gonzales for his funeral service. Skeletal remains found in school. All of that is on the front page of the Guardian this morning. And on the back page, West Indies, I last ate. And that's all you need to know on the back page of the Guardian. Front page of the Newsday today. Schoolboys studying badness. Father of 15-year-old slain in play fight. Grief-stricken, and there's a picture of the father, Andy Lashley, father of slain 15-year-old Christian Lashley, speaks to Newsday about his son's death at the Forensic Science Center in St. James. Imber, government has no plans to increase VAT. And that's it for the front page. On the back page of the Newsday, Kiwis in search of first win as T20 World Cup touches down in TNT. Windies aim to stay perfect. And Market aims to be creative force in TT midfield. That's it for the three dailies in Trinidad and Tobago this morning.
Well done.
All right. Thank you so much, Richie Rich. Of course, we'll get into this morning's poll, but first, let's get the results of our poll from yesterday. We asked you yesterday, do you believe the allegations that there was a discussion in cabinet to increase value-added tax, VAT? Yes or no? The results are in. 82%, 82 said yes. There you go.
People easily fall for that lie, eh? Amazing. You know what I can't understand? So what benefit would that would be brought up on an internal election platform? So what benefit, Mrs. Prasad says, sir? Oh goodness, man, lady.
All right. Well, gentlemen, let's get into this morning's poll, and Paul has put it up already.
Well, gets it up quickly.
Do you agree with the Minister of Finance, Colin Imbert, that the opposition leader is engaged in political dishonesty? I would have put analyze there too, regarding allegations of an intention by the government to raise VAT. Because it's both, he said. He said it's lies and political dishonesty.
You work with this.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So let's get those calls in. Let's get those messages in via WhatsApp at 318-1021, via Facebook and YouTube as well. And of course, you could call us at 222-8255. Those that live out in North America, we've got a toll-free number for you, 866-525-1099. All right, so we got some votes coming in already. Wayne B says yes. Donna Clark says yes. John Cato says yes. Captain Ron says yes. Thank you, Captain Ron. Still in Orlando. Let's see. Ian Lee, yes. Andrew Reno, yes. Rena Boodoo Jennings, yes. DL, yes. Josie Richardson, no. Thank you so much, Josie.
Did DL say yes there? DL, thanks for opening your eyes this morning. I'm just teasing you. But morning to Captain Ron. Captain Ron has been sending me videos of manatees mating right where he is there, where he goes exercising on a morning. The manatees are mating. It's an amazing video. When I did, I want to come back a manatee, yes. Oh gosh. Go ahead. Oh, Steve.
You put that out in the universe, yes? The universe is
All right. Dan Raj says no. Bobby. Morning, Bob. No. Let's see if we got some votes here. Oh, yes. CJ New York says yes. Gregory Bauer, yes. Boy Badesi, yes. Finbar Collins, wholeheartedly agree. Yes.
This is a very instructive poll.
Wayne Joseph in Ontario, Canada says yes. Richard Phillip says yes. Hector, no. Carol Guevara, yes. Lenny James says yes. Val says yes. What says you, caller?
I am saying yes. Paul,
All right.
look at your face.
Just so?
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Tell us that.
We have to do it. We don't have a choice.
Oh, look at your face.
Yeah, just so. More mad people outside than in.
I don't understand that.
All right.
More mad people outside than in.
DL responded to you, Wendell. Do you agree with the Minister of Finance, Colin Imbert, that the opposition leader is engaged in political dishonesty regarding the allegations of an intention by the government to raise VAT? Yes or no? That's our poll this morning. Let's see.
222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans, 866-525-1099. Absolutely toll-free. People watching us on various streaming platforms or listening to us on streaming platforms. You can send your votes via the portals there. And of course, if you're watching us on television, you can also vote via WhatsApp at 868-318-1021.
I got Michael saying yes. I've got Central Animal Lover saying yes. I got Jason in Port-au-Prince saying yes. I've got Junior saying yes. Thank you, guys.
You have some more on WhatsApp. You have some more on the chat.
Yeah, that was WhatsApp there. Oh, boy. All right. Slick Money Grip says yes. Julia S. Batiste says yes. Mrs. Ara says yes. Esther Adams, yes. Reynold Jeffrey, yes. Pearl Cordis, yes. What's your vote, caller?
I'm clearing up what I said. It's based on what Wendell said, why Paul opened his eyes and thing about coming back as a manatee. That's why I said that. So it's you, Maddie Wendell.
Zeno, you don't want to clear up
We're
nothing
doing the
personal.
poll.
You know, we
All
saw
you know,
his face.
all you know, once is a
Good
poll, you never
morning,
jump in
gentlemen.
twice and 3
New
times.
Jersey, my answer is yes.
In New Jersey, no, you're real traveling.
Well, I have a lot of children all over the state.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Well done. Well done, Mr. Well
All
done,
right,
Mr.
Mr.
Gomes.
Manatee, thank you.
Well done, Mr. Gomes. Well done.
I did Pearl Cordis.
See,
Jean
Wendell?
Clark, Jean Clark,
Use
yes.
your long poll this morning.
Ambrose Blah, yes. Michael Robinson in Yokohama, Japan, yes. Denwell, no.
You give us a long poll, sir, Wendell. So
Kenny in Harlem says yes to the poll.
Did somebody do a
Kenwin
play
says
on my name
no.
by saying Denwell?
KG, yes to the poll. I worked at a guy called KG, a radio announcer in Toronto. Let's see. Okay.
Somebody come up with a name and put no, just to you see that?
Wendell, do not do that. Don't do that.
All right.
That's what they did.
We're still taking your calls,
That's
222-8255.
Please don't do
You
that.
really believe somebody named Denwell?
Do not do that.
Just
The
a
leader
nice
of the
guy says
opposition-
yes to the poll.
The leader of the opposition is a dangerous liar. That's the words of Colman Booth. That's what he really said. She's a dangerous liar. That's what you're voting on today. Well, we saying political dishonest.
He also said that, Wendell.
I just reminding people.
All right. Let's see.
You sleep
Yeah.
good last night, boy. Cold weather
Actually, I
agreement.
didn't, I stayed up watching Monk. You all ever watch Monk? I love Monk,
All right.
did watch
CMJ says yes
why.
to the poll.
You get free
I am a bit-
counseling.
No, I am a bit like
Morgan
Monk.
says yes to the poll.
I think I am a bit like Monk.
You ain't like no monk.
No, I
Monks are celibate.
well, not okay. I ain't talking about that Monk. I talking about the fact when I sit down and I look around my surroundings, if I see anything twisted or out of place, I get up and I move it.
Me too.
I fix it,
There's a slight ADHD.
Yeah.
You just fix everything that twisted in front of you.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We have a minute and a half again to vote on our poll. Do you agree with the Minister of Finance?
He wants it twisted
Colin
cast in front of
Ingrid,
you.
that the opposition leader is engaged in political dishonesty regarding allegations of an intention by the government to raise VAT. Not our poll. If you're on a highway, if you're heading to the new highway to point between Grant Road flyover and the turn off the Vance River, a truck has gotten in an accident and has taken out a light pole. So
Oh dear.
proceed with
Who we have
caution.
coming up after 7, Steve?
Dr. Marlene Atz. We have at 7:15.
Wonderful. I have a short interview after the news.
Call. Why do
Probably
you
not.
call?
We have got a couple more votes there, Steve. Oscar Daniel says yes. Shanifa Ali, I think, is saying no. I'm not sure. And CPT saying yes. I guess that is yes. I vote me. I don't know if that's a yes.
Okay. Vincent says out in the UK, says yes to the poll. Thank you, Vincent. We have like 30 seconds again to vote on our poll.
I just sent him yesterday.
30 newscasts will give results after the newscast.
You know that, Steve. I just sent him yesterday.
Yeah, I know what? Sorry.
Send her home.
We had to send you home.
Avril.
Why?
She's coughing.
I was not well yesterday.
Oh, I
And,
hear
so,
it again.
she could barely breathe, but wanted to finish the story. I said, girl, go home now.
Oh.
I wasn't hearing you, Paul. I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Avi.
Still not hearing.
I hope you get better.
Thank you so much, Wendell. I appreciate that, and I appreciate
She'll be
you.
barely breathing. I want to finish the
not a
story.
problem.
Say, we could condition and go home.
And today, the Sahara dust is supposed to be really bad, eh?
Yes, and here I am at work.
Wow.
No rays in sight. And it's time for news on the
Yeah, let's get into it.
Avi, I know that feeling, girl.
News starts right now.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
The finance minister says cabinet took no decision to increase the VAT rate. No new water management company in Trinidad and Tobago to be formed. Government plans to take legal action against tug and barge owner or owners involved in Tobago oil spill. And the man who left his 3-year-old child in a car while he went shopping in Price Mart is charged with cruelty to a child. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sinjal Bab. Good morning. Finance Minister Colm Imbert is accusing opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar of political dishonesty in her claims that government intends to raise revenue by raising value-added tax and imposing other punitive measures on citizens. He said that cabinet made no decision to increase the rate of value-added tax. Persad-Bissessar's remarks was made during the UNC Star Team's meeting at Kana High Presbyterian Primary School in Barrackpore on Monday night.
VAT rate amendment in this cabinet note appendix 7. For every 1% increase in VAT, 560 million VAT revenue is estimated to be earned. An increase in the VAT rate to 15% can result in an additional revenue of 1.4 billion earned annually once properly administered. Mr. Raul, that I didn't make that up is in your note. It is in your note that you will be considering instituting all these measures.
However, Minister Imbert set the record straight on the matter, describing the remarks as untruth. He said the document referred to by the opposition had no decision or recommendation taken by the cabinet on this issue.
The working paper that is presented to all ministers of finance has been for the last 30 years. But the document contained no decision and no recommendation to the cabinet. And the leader of the opposition had that document in her possession. And what I find intriguing about the extra story this morning is it reads out a whole set of things and say, increase corporation tax, increase individual income tax, increase value-added tax. And I have the document right here. And it has decrease X, increase Y. And
no decision has been taken to form a new water management company in Trinidad and Tobago. Confirmation of this came from Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez. He told the Senate on Tuesday, with respect to the proposed restructuring of the Water and Sewerage Authority, several reports have indicated the utility's top management is overstaffed and needs to be reduced. There is a transformation plan for WASA, and the top management structure for the 34 leadership positions has been approved, and the Human Resource Subcommittee of Cabinet is still determining the compensation packages for these positions. Persons have been identified for the fulfilling of 9 leadership positions.
Chief Executive Officer, Director Corporate Finance, Director People Transformation and Central Services, Director Technology, Future Systems and Sustainability, Director Water Management Tobago, Director Water Management Northwest, Northeast, South and Central. Once the top leadership has been contractually engaged, the next levels of management will be restructured, guided by the transformation plan. And the top leadership will participate in the decision in relation to the next level of management.
Questioned on whether 3,000 WASA workers are expected to be separated or retrenched in the restructuring plans for WASA, Minister Gonzalez revisited what happened at this same issue on the same issue in 2013 when the People's Partnership government was in office.
It is in a 2013 document submitted to the IDB by the then UNC government that 2,500 workers were earmarked to be dismissed from the Water and Sewage Authority. It was on that document signed by one CEO, Ganga Singh, who approached the IDB for a loan of $1.5 billion. They got $500 million to engage in a visa package to separate these WASA workers.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago plans to take legal action against the purported owner or owners of the tug Solo Creed and the barge Gulfstream, which were involved in the oil spill, which took place in February this year in Tobago. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries Stuart Young provided the update to the Senate on Tuesday during the question and answer period. Minister Young was asked to provide a comprehensive update on the search for the owner or owners of the vessel and the owner or owners and origin of the vessel that was reported to be towing the barge. In response, it was revealed by Minister Young that when ownership of the vessels involved is established, the government will move ahead with legal action.
Once ownership is established, this government will take legal action against the purported owners of the barge Gulfstream and or the owner of the tug Solo Creed. We will continue to use all of our relationships and resources, including an independent satellite provider, to attempt to ascertain the owner or owners of the vessels.
An update was also provided on the decanting of the Gulfstream to get the remaining fuel from the capsized vessel, a process which should be completed by the end of July this year.
International operators were retained by the government, TT Salvage, in collaboration with another sister company. They are currently looking at a further estimated 11,000 barrels of oil. The process has been, or fuel, the process has been somewhat delayed because, of course, this is on the Atlantic side with an overturned vessel on a reef. So every time there are rough waters or bad weather, they have to cease for safety reasons.
You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. The man who allegedly left his 3-year-old daughter in a car while he went into the PriceMart shopping facility in La Romaine has been charged with cruelty to a child. Vendor Kareem Mohammed, 56, of Lal Bihari Trace Penal, yesterday faced High Court Master Sabana Shah. The charge was laid by P.C. Maynard. Mohammed was represented by attorneys Ramesh Dina and Christian Dina, who asked for bail for their client. Prosecutor Cleon Sedan made no objection. Mohammed was placed on $30,000 bail with the condition that he reports to the San Fernando police station once a week. The matter was transferred to the magistrate's court for July 16th. Mohammed is expected to enter a plea on that day. It was on Sunday that the child was allegedly left in a car in the basement car park at PriceMart in La Romaine. The windows in the car were allegedly halfway down, and the child was found screaming by a security guard. Well, finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, mostly sunny, hazy and breezy conditions are expected, despite a medium chance of a few isolated afternoon showers. Tonight would be fair, but hazy apart from a brief shower. Please note that a significant concentration of Saharan dust is present in the atmosphere, and persons who are susceptible to this change in air quality are being advised to take the necessary precautions. Expected temperature high of 33 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 28 degrees Celsius at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, the finance minister says cabinet took no decision to increase VAT rate. No new water management company in Trinidad and Tobago to be formed. Government plans to take legal action against tug and barge owner or owners involved in Tobago oil spill. And the man who left his 3-year-old child in a car while he went shopping in PriceMart is charged with cruelty to a child. I'm Afril Sintel-Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again. Come at 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. Quickly, let's see what's happening on the highways and on the byways. Anything new to tell you about, apart from that accident that Bobby told me about, and that new highway heading to Point. Please take note of that. Again, it is between Grant Road flyover and the turn off the Vance River. The truckers crashed into a light pole. Orodego, heavy. Maraval, heavy. Anywhere that's light, yeah. Chase Village, you've got some traffic there. All right, that's it. Okay, let's see if we have any more votes. Good morning, Cynthia Iran. Okay. Nothing there. Check WhatsApp. Curep says no. Receiving. That's it.
All right. Is that it? Votes? We have a couple of Finbar Collins has gone through a little history of the history of the lies that happens right before an election. But I don't even know that Mrs. Prasad needs to do this in this election season, this particular election. Those by-elections, I mean, anyway. But nobody
how many votes you just added on, Steve?
One. We just added one.
One no, right.
One no, yeah.
All right. So our poll this morning was, do you agree with the Minister of Finance, Com Imber, that the opposition leaders engaged in political dishonesty regarding allegations of an intention by the government to raise VAT? We had 48 people voting on the poll this morning. In the allotted time of the 48 people voting, 42 of you said, yes, you agree with Minister of Finance, Com Imber, and 6 of you said, no, you do not. So 48, so the yeas by a vast majority win this morning in terms of our poll. Of course, you can continue to vote in this poll throughout the day, through our programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Thursday already.
All right. Thank you, Richie Rich. All right, we do have our guest online. And good morning to Dr. Marlene Atz. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm good. You know, it's another day, so.
Alive and kicking.
Alive and kicking. Grateful to be here.
Lovely. Of course, we do have Dr. Paul Richards, Wendell Stephen, and Richard Ragoobarsingh with me this morning.
I want to tell
Good morning.
Morning, Dr. Atz. I want to tell you, Dr. Atz, that this is the absolute best morning show on radio, right? Despite your excursions elsewhere, this is the absolute best morning show on radio. I thought I should tell you that.
And TV.
Well, you know the proof. Well, you know the proof of the pudding is in the eating, they say. So I've never been invited to your station, so I really have no proof other than the fact that, you know, we're chatting this morning. So that's my challenge to you. Take it as
you're a politician. You make a good comeback there.
No. I rebuke that.
I rebuke it.
Anyway, welcome to the Power Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Dr. Atz. I think we had you on the show
already. Good morning, Dr. Richard.
Yes, we have.
I think we've had you on the show before.
Yes, we have.
Yes, Dr. Richards. Yes, I have been. I've been on the show, but not.
We've had the amazing pleasure of being able to see you. Unfortunately, this morning we can't see you, but we'll make do with hearing your wonderful.
He's on the road.
Thank you for joining us this morning. All right, a lot to discuss. Thank you for joining us again. We appreciate your time.
You're most welcome.
The media review, of course, ended it with the approval in the Senate last night of the supplementation of just about $2.3 billion. The Minister of Finance in the House of Representatives and during the Standing Finance Committee spoke to challenges facing the government with the oil and gas prices not reaching where they would have been projected. There's an expected shortfall of approximately $4 billion. The Minister of Finance, heading to an election year, which is unusual, said there's a tough 3 years ahead. Could you put that in context for us in terms of what it means for the economy and also for ordinary citizens?
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. So you might really have to go until 8 o'clock. It's a lot to unpack. So as you correctly stated, let me let me take off from the summary that you provided. What has happened is that when the budget was read in October, on October the 2nd, the minister at that time presented a budget of just about $59 billion in October, and that was based on certain assumptions. So the budget is always based on assumptions of or estimates of oil and gas prices. And why oil and gas prices? Just for the listening audience, that is the backbone of Trinidad and Tobago's economy, the energy sector. So when the budget is being presented, the minister places a lot of emphasis on revenues he will derive from the energy sector, from the operations of the oil and gas companies, royalties, taxes, etc. that they pay. Now, that is not the only source of revenue, but it's the primary source of revenue. So the energy sector accounts for between 35 and 40% of Trinidad and Tobago's GDP, which is not insignificant. You will get other sources of revenue from things like taxes, from the non-energy sector as well, from the business community, etc., etc. So corporation taxes, etc. But primarily the energy sector. So what has happened between October when the budget was read and last Friday when the supplementary appropriation bill was read is that things did not go quite as the minister planned in terms of his expected revenues. So he would have estimated oil coming in at certain prices per barrel and gas coming in at certain prices per MMBTU, which is the measurements for the gas. And things didn't quite come up to his expectations. So he's realized lower than anticipated revenues, as he stated, and he was going back to the parliament to essentially seek an additional $2.3 billion, the majority of which, based on the documentation that Minister read, that the Minister of Finance read, the majority of that $2.3 billion is for recurrent expenditures. So there are outstanding salary payments, outstanding gratuities, payments to OGTs. There's some back pay, I think, for teachers were mentioned, those sorts of issues, but primarily recurrent expenditures accounting for that. So let's park that. So that's the first point. The second point is that in an affidavit that the minister filed in support of the TNT Revenue Authority, essentially he made the point that there are tax leakages. The government is not collecting as much taxes as it ought to because for all kinds of reasons people are evading and all sorts of things. But I imagine also some inefficiencies in the existing collection systems. So in his affidavit that the minister presented, essentially making the point and bolstering the point that we need this, the government needs to have this approval for this TT Revenue Authority. He said that shortfalls in revenues, so from the energy sector that I would have mentioned, plus the leakages, the tax revenues that are not being collected from businesses, from citizens, etc., etc. He says that situation is so dire that if we don't have an efficient agency such as the TTRA, because all of this was in the context of proposing the TTRA, we could find ourselves, the government could find itself unable to maintain basic social programs, and he mentioned some other things, but social programs, and that is where the headline came out about CDAP being a strain on the government's expenditures. So the long and short of the story is that the government is challenged to collect revenue, but it has at the same time increased its expenditure. So we now have one of the largest budgets ever. So our expenditure now stands at $61.5 billion, and I'm saying our because it's ours, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, lest anyone thinks that I'm making a political statement. This is our expenditure, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, $61.5 billion, and a revenue projection that I think is a little modest. So it's going to be about $54 billion. I think he's now projecting, ministers are projecting $51 billion that he's going to collect. So, which leaves a deficit of about $9 billion for the rest of the fiscal year 2024. And I will stop there because I think there are lots of conversations that have come out since then in terms of the opposition saying that the government is planning to increase taxes, etc. That information is not in the public space, so I don't want to kind of speak to that scenario. I'm really just wanting to kind of clarify and to bring my own perspective in terms of what is happening. But it certainly does mean that moving forward, the minister is correct. Things are going to be a little challenging because the government continues to spend more than it's actually earning. But we the citizens know that there is a conversation around property tax. And then when the minister presented the budget last October, he anticipated that property tax could bring in $400 million. A couple of years ago, a colleague from UWI did a study that says that there is a potential tax leakage of $15 billion in terms of the amount of money that the government is not collecting from taxes. So it's really it's going to require some kind of balancing moving forward, because even as the government has increased its expenditure, the question is going to be, where is the additional revenue going to come from? So the $2.3 billion that was approved in the supplementary appropriation came from the consolidated fund, but certainly it is going to be a bit of a challenge moving forward to continue that level of expenditure. And so I think we're going to be in for some interesting times. I am not too clear. I don't know if Dr. Richards is clear on what is the current status of the property tax. I know there was noise, there was silence, there was noise again, and there's silence now. So that hasn't happened. I know that there is a conversation around the electricity rates, but that is on hold. I'm going on memory now. But yes, certainly that is the overarching context that we're in right now in terms
You're
of
like me. There's so much happening, you lose track sometimes. Dr. Atz, what is your perspective on the recent IMF report, which put us on a growth path, but I also identified some challenges moving forward?
Okay, and I'm glad you raised that. Again, just to share with the population, and a couple of things I want to say about that, because sometimes, and the Minister of Finance himself sometimes pulls out the IMF as a boogeyman. So I just want to put the context of what the IMF does. Trinidad and Tobago and many other countries in the Caribbean and throughout the world are members of the International Monetary Fund. And as a member of the International Monetary Fund, you sign on to certain articles. You are committed to certain modes of behavior, standard operating procedures. And one of the standard operating procedures, and it's really something called an Article 4 consultation, where a team from the IMF comes to the respective country on an annual basis. Well, hopefully on an annual basis, because there was a time when we skipped our Article 4 consultations with the IMF. They come into the country and they meet with a team of officials from the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, and other like institutions, and they provided with documents in terms of the state of the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we look through all of our economic policy documents, and they will then hold conversations with their counterparts in Trinidad, the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, CSO. They even sometimes engage stakeholders. So they sometimes may meet with the opposition, with other persons, etc., just to get a sense and a pulse of what is happening. So as they review the documents, they can actually get a sense and they can do their own due diligence, as the case might be. So that process happened for us the latter part of May into June, and then at the end of that visit, the IMF would issue this Article 4 consultation report, which stated, based on the documents that that was presented to them, that Trinidad and Tobago has seen some recovery. Now, we know that we've not had recovery. Let me just stick a pin. Because our economy is heavily dependent on the energy sector, anything that causes that the returns from that sector and our GDP, our economic growth is heavily predicated on and driven by what happens in the energy sector. So anything that happens to cause there not to be growth, prices are depressed, we're not earning as much, we're not exporting, we're not earning enough revenue, etc., will show that we've not had an economic growth, or we've had negative economic growth, as economists call it. There has been some uptick in terms of what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, driven by the non-energy sector, the manufacturing sector primarily. So that has shown, according to the documents presented to the IMF and what they reported in the Article 4 consultation report, that there is some glimmer. We're seeing the IMF is seeing some signs of economic growth returning to Trinidad and Tobago, driven by the non-energy sector, because we do know that production is down in the energy sector and prices are down in the energy sector. So the uptick that they're seeing is in terms of Trinidad and Tobago's economic growth trajectory is driven by the non-energy sector. But having said that, the IMF continues to caution that we need to diversify the economy because our heavy dependence on the energy sector puts us in a very vulnerable situation because of the volatility in the energy sector. And that volatility is driven by exogenous factors, things that are beyond our control. So price of a barrel of oil or price of gas is not within Trinidad and Tobago's control. So if the prices go up, we benefit. If the prices go down, of course, we also suffer those consequences. So the IMF is cautioning again about diversification given the volatility, but they're also cautioning that a lot of our economic growth in the energy sector is also based on other exogenous factors, including geopolitical issues. And in the report, they cautioned about geopolitical tensions that may impact on our energy sector, advancing. So we know that there's a conversation around the dragon gas. We know there's some other fields that are coming into play and some other activity taking place in the energy sector. And the IMF has cautioned in the Article 4 consultation report that we need to kind of be mindful of these things. And I think all of it is simply, a kind of precautionary principle that says, things are looking not too bad, but just be mindful that, in one fell swoop, something can happen and your best laid plans in terms of the energy sector may be compromised. So that's the caution. Mm-hmm. They also spoke about the Forex issues, and they've asked in the report, they suggested that Trinidad and Tobago again looks at having, I think the language they used was having an appropriate infrastructure for the allocation of foreign exchange. And they also, again in the report, the language of the IMF suggested that we look at having a more flexible exchange rate. And just to put that in context, in the last budget, the Minister of Finance spoke to a Forex facility, particularly for the SMEs. And I know that there has been some concern that that facility has not been fully realized, and the SME sector has in fact been challenged to access foreign exchange. Certainly from all the reports coming in from the various chambers, etc., they've been challenged to access foreign exchange to conduct their affairs. So that's one thing in terms of the allocation, the infrastructure that we put in place, that the country puts in place for the allocation of foreign exchange. And then on the issue of a flexible exchange rate, the minister was again very adamant last week. The Minister of Finance was very adamant that devaluation is not on the cards. And that is something that the IMF, when they speak about a flexible exchange rate, what they're really saying is there continue to be demand pressures. People are demanding foreign exchange for all of the things that we consume in Trinidad and Tobago. Just look at the number of new vehicles that we have, the foods that we consume on a daily basis. Our diet is heavily dependent on imported goods and services, for which we have to pay in US dollars. But we've not been earning US dollars because, again, 80% of our forex or thereabouts comes from the energy sector. So go back to the first part of my conversation in terms of what has been happening with the energy sector. So it means that our inflows of foreign exchange are challenged, but our demand for foreign exchange, for all of the goodies that we like to consume, that demand remains unchecked. So there is an imbalance inside of there. And in basic economic theory, what should have happened is that there should have been a depreciation of the exchange rate to kind of manage that appetite for foreign exchange so that imported goods would be more expensive. But the minister has always been very clear that that is not going to happen anytime soon, not under his watch. Because what happens once you depreciate the currency, immediately the price of everything will increase. putting further pressure on the population. So the minister has always been very adamant that devaluation is not something that he is contemplating.
Dr.
Now,
Atz, one of your colleagues, if I could just, one of your colleagues, Professor Roger Hussein, was our guest yesterday, and he indicated that Trinidad and Tobago is the worst, if not one of the worst performing economies in the Caribbean. Would you care to comment on that? Do you agree with that? Disagree with that? What is your position on that?
All right. I want to put that statement in context. I didn't hear Professor Hussein's contribution yesterday, but I want to put it in context because I recently shared a platform with him at a seminar, and I addressed that issue because people are comparing Trinidad and Tobago to Guyana. And I don't know if that was the context of Professor Hussein's contribution yesterday, but I know that there was a report in the newspaper that he's done a recent study, but I just want to put my own take on it. Guyana is a new, fresh, young, vibrant, and I'm using language specifically so that people understand the context, oil and gas economies. So things they're just taking off. So at the start of their life cycle. So there is much buzz. There are a lot of finds. It's a new field. It's an exciting time. Recently, Exxon reported that they've made, I think in the last 6 months of the last year, they've made over $600+ billion in profits because they're operating out of Guyana. Trinidad and Tobago, on the other hand, is an aged energy economy, so it is difficult and it is really not appropriate to compare what is happening in Guyana with Trinidad and Tobago's energy sector. It's simply that we are more mature as an energy economy, and they are now taking off. So there is a lot of life and vibrancy based on the fact, and another point I made earlier, that the majority of the economic activity is now as a result of the amount of money that they're earning from the energy sector. When you translate that into GDP, Guyana is one of the fastest growing in numbers, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. They have double-digit GDP growth simply because their GDP is a function of the revenue that they're earning from the energy sector. So when you take that economic growth, yes, the economy is growing double digits. Trinidad and Tobago, we're now seeing some signs of economic recovery in Trinidad and Tobago, but GDP is not the only indicator, and it is really not a sufficient indicator of how well or how badly an economy is doing. You have to look behind the numbers. And one of the indicators that gives you a more purposeful, meaningful indicator is something called the Human Development Index, which measures per capita GDP, it measures health and longevity, it measures access to education, et cetera, et cetera. And if you use that more complete picture, you will see that Guyana is not doing very well from that holistic approach to economic development. So you will have high ranking, they call high human development, so they're ranked between 0 and 1. So you'll find that Trinidad and Tobago, you'll find the Bahamas, you'll find the St. Kitts, I think, are some of the top ranking countries. And then at the low end of the spectrum, you will find the Guyana. So economic growth, we can't argue what the numbers will show because of the nature of oil and gas economies. Guyana will be seen to be, and all of the multilateral agencies will tell you yes, but Guyana still has challenges because it still has, one of the, the highest levels of poverty in our part of the world. I think their poverty levels are close to like 40% or something like that. But everything is relative because Guyana also has a much smaller population than Trinidad and Tobago, almost half the size of Trinidad and Tobago's population. So on the basis of economic growth measured in terms of the energy sector and the output from the energy sector, absolutely. But measured in that way, it does not give you a complete picture. And if you look at any one of the multidimensional indices that give you a more holistic look at economic development and how countries are doing, certainly Trinidad and Tobago continues to be at the top, notwithstanding all of the pain points that we have in terms of crime, et cetera, et cetera. But Trinidad and Tobago continues to be faring fairly well in terms of economic development. And that does not mean that we're doing that there is no work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. When you listen to people complaining about not being able to access water and, accessing water once a month, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is still a lot to be done, but on the basis of the question that you asked, I think I would, I welcome the opportunity to provide some clarity and my own perspective in terms of what more holistic indicators, global indicators, see in terms of the performance of Caribbean countries.
Dr. I wanted to go back to the issue of diversification, which the IMF.
This is who? This is Richard. This is who? Missing voice.
Richard Ragoobarsingh.
Richard. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Richard.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to go back to that diversification issue because since we're in primary school, we're hearing about the issue of diversity.
Since Rock of Ages was a pebble, yeah.
In the Trinidad and Tobago economy. And here we are in 2024, and it's still a word that crops up in any report concerning Trinidad and Tobago. What is it that we are not doing right in terms of having more productive diversification of the economy? What's timing?
All right. I think what's timing, I think there are a couple of things, and I like to call it structural adjustment, because if the structure of your economy has changed, I think then everything else needs to change in tandem. So your education system has to be adjusted to suit a different structure. Your culture has to be adjusted to suit a different culture, to suit a different economic structure, etc. And the whole ecosystem around how your economy operates has to change. So I think what has stymied, your substantive question is, I think what has stymied Trinidad and Tobago is that we continue to have our conversations around the energy sector. And even as we're having these conversations around the energy sector, the world is talking about renewable energy. And we, I remember last year before, when the Prime Minister returned from one of the global meetings looking at climate change, the COP meeting, he said that, we have to transition and we have to make the effort to transition. And yes, you're correct. This is something that we've been hearing for several years. But I think there is now a greater urgency because climate change is upon us. And those countries, while Trinidad and Tobago's per capita emissions of greenhouse gases, of carbon dioxide, seems high on a global scale, that is simply because we are so heavily dependent on the energy sector and our population is so small. So per capita, it looks as if we're big things are going on in Trinidad and Tobago, and in truth and in fact, we are a small emitter compared to larger countries, the more industrialized countries like China, India, United States, Germany, UK, etc., etc. But the fact remains that we need to transition, and our population needs to understand what the transition involves. And what the transition involves is that really a $61.5 billion budget is heavily dependent on the energy sector. So what we have to transition, so if we can use that as our starting point to make the adjustments in our mind first and foremost, we need to find sectors that allow us to earn the kinds of revenues, well, probably not 61.5 because that's the expenditure figure, but we need to find and invest in sectors that will allow us to earn $51 billion, which is the revised revenue projections for the government. So even if you shave off, let's say half of that, and you're getting 25 billion from the energy sector, we need to find and we need to develop sectors that will allow us to earn $25 billion. And that's just some quick back of the envelope arithmetic. But if we are saying now that our revenue projections predicated primarily from the energy sector will be $51 billion, then we have to figure out how we're going to transform and structurally adjust our economy to allow us. And I think a big part of that has to do with our education formally, but also has to do with our education of our population, because I suspect many persons in the population don't quite make the connection between the diversification thing that we've been hearing about since Rock of Ages was a pebble and where we are now, until and unless we are educated into the creative sectors where people want to become entrepreneurs, where people want to take risks, where people don't have as their aspirations to go to university or to come out of school and go in a government job, where until we have the aspiration that we that we want to be part of creating a different economic landscape in Trinidad and Tobago, I think that is going to be our biggest challenge. I think that is really what is stymieing us, and including with that the fact that we've built some decent reserves from the energy sector, so we always have those buffers available to us if something happens. I mean, we saw it during COVID-19. Trinidad and Tobago fortunately had the buffer of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, so we could access some resources in short order, given the crisis that we were facing. But if we didn't have those buffers, we would be forced to do things differently. And I think what is really stymieing us is that we have not embraced or liberated ourselves from thinking about the energy sector as, as always being there to support us. And I think it starts with the mind and that kind of cultural shift, which of course the government has to set the tone on that, because I don't think the population at large really appreciates what is happening in our economic space now. And I don't know if they really appreciate when the Minister of Finance says that the next 3 years could be challenging. I'm not too sure that people have actually internalized what that could look and feel like. My take on it is, in terms of what has been stymieing it, is really, we're holding ourselves back. And I'm saying the royal we, because I think many of us don't appreciate, when you go and you shop in some of those larger spaces and you might be paying for something in TT dollars, that business is not TT owned. So funds are repatriated in foreign currency. And if you're not having sufficient foreign currency coming in from your main source, it means that you're drawing down on your reserves to pay for consumer goods. And, there's really a whole kind of cycle. If we were to connect the dots, we could probably have a clearer picture as to what is.
Dr. Arts, I want to go back a bit, because I was reminded by someone on the message board about the issue of the property tax, which is I feel was a low-hanging fruit. Because in 2014, before the People's Partnership went out of power, they had made moves to re-implement the property tax, right? It didn't happen. Government changed. The PNM came in and has spent the last 9 years not being able to implement the property tax. What do you think comes to that? And I'm asking that in light of all these issues that you are raising in terms of revenue and so on, which to me, I think the majority of the population, I know that some are against it, but the majority of the population will probably be accepting of some form of property tax based on our history. Why do you think that there's this pushback against the property tax, the implementation of it?
Well, I think, couple things I may suggest. So one, I think when the rate came in, I think there was some confusion in terms of how the valuation was going to be done. So there was a lot of noise around the valuation, and whether perceived or real, people felt that, my property is an old board house, and yet telling me so and so and so. And I think there wasn't sufficient clarity around how it would be implemented, either because people conveniently, didn't want to know about it, because some persons have an aversion to anything called a tax. But I think the minister has come back subsequently, if I recall, and has said there's now going to be a flat fee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one point. The second point, I think persons are not comforted. Okay, before I get to the second point, so point 1.5, what was said about the property tax when it was being presented is that it was also going to be a source of revenue for the municipal corporations to allow them to do the work and to take care of their areas and to look after their burgesses without having very heavily. That's correct, because part of the local government reform. But that's also a big word, and I when I speak, I try to be a little deliberate so that people on the average Joe and Jane can understand. So it's meant to ensure that garbage collection, if it have a pothole in your area, it could take, your municipal corporation can actually fix the pothole, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, in theory, what is supposed to be part of the property tax as well. But then the property tax, I think, also has unfortunately been part of political conversations. So people have politicized the property tax as oppressive, as this, as that, and who did and who didn't do, and who said and who didn't say, and who all kinds of things. And it's a simple thing. I think if you live in a space there are two sides of it. One, many persons in Trinidad and Tobago very happily jump on a plane and travel abroad. If you travel to the US, there is tax. There is property tax. It's called all sorts of things. You pay state tax, you pay thing tax, you take all kind of tax. If you live in the UK, you pay council tax, you pay TV tax. To have a TV in your house in the UK, you pay a TV license, etc., etc. So a property tax is not anything that Trinidad and Tobago alone is going to implement. And I think our population, again, needs to be realistic about where we are. But it could be that in terms of how it was communicated to the population, allowed for there to be gaps in communication, misinformation, persons didn't receive it, persons didn't understand. So maybe there needs to be more work in terms of how it is communicated, so that the average person can understand. I think there is also a fear that persons who are renting, that landlords will take advantage of the property tax to increase their rental income at a time where people's salaries are still kind of struggling to keep up with the cost of living, etc. So I think there is a lot of noise and a cacophony even, and we've not. I think there needs to be some still and some quiet, and persons need to understand that yes, it doesn't amount to a lot, because on one or two occasions when I've had to, in different spaces, I've had the opportunity to talk about issues such as we're talking about today. Sometimes, the property tax comes down to $100 a month, $125 a month, depending on your property, and that is a higher end property, a middle income property you're speaking about. So I think it really is a lot of noise, and the politics then gets involved in it, and I think that is probably what has sort of delayed. And I think the systems weren't ready in terms of evaluation, because people were essentially lodging complaints about the valuations that they may have received, and so it's all of that. But I do think moving forward, and I hope that in presenting some of the information and my perspectives on where we are as a country, that persons will now not embrace, but appreciate the fact that, something has to give and things have to be done a little differently moving forward.
I don't know if it was covered. I had to run off for 10 minutes, Dr. Atz, but did you all cover the level of import cover and Forex availability, which is one of the issues that the IMF raised in this report?
Yeah, we spoke about Forex, and I spoke tangentially about the Heritage and Stabilization Fund and the foreign exchange reserves that we have, the import cover. I didn't go into the import to the reserves per se, but I think we're down to, about 7 months import cover. But what happens, and again, I want to say this for general knowledge, so that the population kind of appreciates how these things operate. The central bank, so just before the IMF Article 4 consultation report and the reading of the supplementary appropriation bill, etc., the central bank would have issued their annual report for 2023, and there was an interesting narrative in that report. The central bank regularly occasionally intervenes in the market to provide foreign exchange, so that people have access to foreign exchange in the system. I mean, it mightn't seem like that to the average person, but it's one of the things that the central bank does as part of its exchange rate policy, to kind of maintain the exchange rate from going too far out of whack. Because as I mentioned, if the exchange rate depreciates significantly, it then means that the prices of everything else that we consume will also increase. So the central bank will occasionally put money into the system, and that money comes from our reserves. So we're drawing down on the reserves to help us maintain consumer demand. The central bank also said in their 2023 report that they used some of the foreign exchange that we got into the country, because in 2022 because of the Russia-Ukraine war, we got a kind of windfall of income coming in towards the end of the year, because prices went up. Prices in the energy sector went up. So we got a little reprieve, so to speak. And some of that money had to be used to go into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. So we're earning income, we're using it to maintain the exchange rate or to manage the exchange rate so that, the cost of imported goods and services, including things like medical medicines, are not too high. We're using some of that to put into our savings fund, which is the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. We're using some of the inflows that are coming in to put into the reserves, but it's really not a lot of foreign exchange. It's not the amount of foreign exchange that we're accustomed to that's coming in, but we also have to use it for government's expenditure because government has loans, etc., that have to be paid in foreign currency. So yeah, that's part of the conversations, and therefore that's one of the reasons I think that the IMF in the Article 4 consultation report of a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, said that we need to look at the infrastructure for the allocation of forex. And there have been calls, as I mentioned, you may have missed this part, Dr. Richards, but there have been calls from certainly the SMEs and some of the chambers that speak to the SMEs, talking about the need for there to be foreign exchange because, as one chamber put it, if companies don't have the forex to conduct their business, then it could have an impact on the ability to run their businesses and employ persons, and that could then lead us into a different direction.
Well, let me look at it from a different perspective. One of the things the minister mentioned last night, of course, is the issue of the deficit, and we're talking about forex now. And a point I raised last night is the fact that our food import bill went in 2019 from 5 billion to, I mentioned 7.8 billion. The minister corrected me last night, said $7.9 billion in 2022, 2023. So I'm presuming in 2024 it's a little more, right? That's one. That's also eating up forex, and in my estimation, that a lot of what is imported is unhealthy and making us sick anyway. That's one. And two, our increased appetite for online purchases, which the minister, I think, has put some systems in place to damper, but I don't know how much it has worked. How much should that be a point of those issues be a point of focus in managing our forex demand in the country?
Well, I think you're preaching to the converted. Let me deal with the food side of it. I mean, there is a CARICOM initiative, as you probably know, Dr. Richards, 25 by 25, to reduce the food import bill by 25% by the year 2025, which in effect means that you want to give greater attention to the agriculture sector. And that's a regional initiative coming out of the CARICOM heads of government, and I think it is the champion for that is Prime Minister of Guyana, Prime Minister Ali. You're absolutely correct that I think a lot of what we're importing compromises our food and nutrition security. But the conversation that should come out of that is how do we boost agriculture in a way that we can enjoy economies of scale so that our farmers can see the incentives to essentially continue in their agriculture, to deepen the agriculture so that we can contribute more to local production and local consumption. Attendant to that conversation, having put that out there, of course, attendant to that is the whole question of land tenure and in terms of some of the incentives available to farmers are really for farmers who have land tenure. And I'm sure you're aware, Dr. Richards, that continues to be a pain point for many of the persons who are involved in agriculture because many of them don't have land tenure. The second part of it is about, the consumption patterns. And I totally agree with you. And I made mention, I don't know if you left the room then, that a lot of what we are importing is not healthy. I mean, Minister of Health made some pronouncements a couple of months ago, and you see the appetite not being changed. Now, one of the advantages that will come from a depreciation is that the goods and services will become more expensive, and people might then have a deterrent. But it depends on their marginal propensity. Well, what in economics we call it, their marginal propensity to consume these imports and their demand elasticity for that. If the price goes up, some people might just think if the price goes up, it means that they're better off than other people because they can then buy those goods and services. On the issue of online shopping, I hear you, but I think for many persons, and there's some small business persons that I know who say that the cost of buying some of those goods, so like containers for their food and small businesses, the containers are just too expensive in Trinidad. So for them, it makes sense to go online and buy it and ship it in from country A, B, or C, and that sort of thing. So it's it's a conversation to be had in terms of managing the appetite that we have for imported goods and services, because it will always come back to that. I mean, when you ask a child what their favorite local fruit is and they can tell you it's an apple, then we know that we have a problem.
Well, these days, dragon fruit everywhere. We grow dragon fruit here?
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Well, that's good to know, because I've seen dragon fruit everywhere now.
No, we grow dragon fruit, and it's one of the best kept secrets in Trinidad and Tobago. We have we've grown dragon fruit for many years, but of course, we only became interested when we started seeing it being advertised in foreign spaces. But we've grown dragon fruit for many years, and there are parts of Trinidad where you can go and you will see dragon fruit in persons' backyards. You will see large fields of dragon fruit, etc. So no, dragon fruit is grown locally, and I think we have most of the varieties growing in Trinidad and Tobago.
You ain't growing that many apples, though.
No, but I'm saying to you, the point is that some children, kindergarten children, tell you their favorite local fruit is an apple. And that says something. I mean, those of us, persons like yourself who might be older than I am, long ago we knew. Long ago, you knew Christmas was coming when you saw apples and grapes on Independence Square. And you appreciated those things. And I'm not saying that we go back to the dark ages.
But you have more apple and grape than mango now.
Absolutely. No, I think this year we're having a bumper crop for
this
mango.
Year?
Everywhere. I think, because this year. But but apples and grapes and all of those other goodies, kiwis, all of those things are par for the course. And there has to be something that says, given where we are, and one of the things I appreciated with the Minister of Finance's tone over the last couple of weeks is the seriousness of his tone, because I think that is what is required for us to start to appreciate, and the population. I mean, he touched on CDAP, which I think is a sore point for many persons, but the seriousness of the tone, I think, is required given where we are and some of the decisions that have to be made collectively moving forward. The government has an overarching responsibility in terms of the macroeconomic environment, but we as citizens also have a responsibility to understand, to educate ourselves in terms of what is happening around us and to make different decisions.
Well, the government has said, the Minister of Finance said the next 3 years are going to be challenging, but for a lot of Trinidadians and Tobagonians, the last 5 years or 7 years have been challenging. So
that's correct. Absolutely.
So for them, that's just words. What does that mean to us? It doesn't mean anything because we are already challenged.
Well, I think if we focus on the fact that we now have one of the largest levels of expenditure, and a reduced revenue source, that arithmetic alone should say that something is happening here. So yes, for many persons, and I don't want to
haven't we been here before?
Pardon?
Haven't we been here before? Haven't we been here before?
Yes, as a country, we've been there before. We've been here in 1986. We've been here when when we had periods of boom, and then we had the 80s where oil prices plummeted. But some of the current generations, the millennials, the Generation Z, etc., they have no clue what we're talking about. And even some persons who are fortunate to find themselves either employed in spaces or having had a socialization, they may not quite appreciate what all of the noise is about. But there are people in the country, which is what we always have to guard against. There are people in the country who are barely making ends meet, and for whom any additional layer of hardship would really be devastating for them. So again, coming back to the property tax, while I understand and while I think it's appropriate, persons who are renting could reasonably have a concern that their landlord might increase the rent on them, but their salary hasn't increased. Persons who are having challenges already making ends meet now could reasonably be concerned with the imminent increase in electricity, and let me not say imminent, the intended increase in electricity rates, because right now, it's kind of like a dance, which one you want to pay this month, whether you pay electricity, whether you pay the cable, etc. And then you also have the cable companies that, whenever, send out a notice saying that, from next month it's going to be increased. And some persons still have not recovered from COVID-19 in terms of the economic impact of COVID-19. So some persons lost their jobs. They're now kind of getting back on their feet. You have children, a child, So there are a number of, circumstances that come together. And there are people in the population. And Senator Richards, I would really like you to ensure that we get the CSO, Survey of Living Conditions, and Household Budgetary Survey, so that we can see what's happening to people around the country, and we can have a conversation in terms of how do we best make interventions. So all of the social support programs that we have, how do we ensure that they are targeted and they can...
I absolutely agree with you. The last census on property in the country was a while ago.
Yeah. Dr. Atz, is dollarization an option for Trinidad and Tobago? And if not, why not?
I think it's a conversation to be had, but I don't think that we want to add that issue of dollarization. No, there's some more systemic things that I think we need to deal with before we kind of add into the mix things about dollarization. I don't think that that's a conversation. I think there are too many things happening that we need to address before, adding a layer and adding to the confusion, a whole conversation around dollarization. It could be something down the line, but I think we have to get our house in order first in terms of how do we manage our economic space in terms of the energy sector, the non-energy sector, and how do we get our population to be engaged in terms of what is happening around us and what can impact on our day-to-day life. We, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, not the government, but we, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, how do we understand what is happening so that we can demand and we can make representation for certain things for the benefit of the country, and not leave it really to the political processes.
I wish we had time for you all to explain what dollarization is, but I think we're out of time. Because
maybe you'll invite me back or invite me to the studio, or
Yeah, but we want to see you. This voice thing ain't gonna work. We want to see you.
Come into the studio. Yes, come into the studio, and we can have the conversation around the dollarization. I'd be happy to do that if facilitated.
Absolutely.
That might be one of the days that I come in town to in the studio also.
you figure it out.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
Yes, thank you so much.
Have a great day. Be safe.
Have a good one.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, of course, I was UE economist, Dr. Marlene Atz. Of course, our guest tomorrow will be...
It's wonderful to have sober, objective thought.
I always like listening to her. I've always liked listening. I listen to her otherwise, outside of this radio station.
As opposed to unsubstantiated hyperbole.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Gentlemen, have a wonderful day.
Folks, have an absolutely beautiful day. I hope that we get cricket later at the Barnara Stadium.
Yeah, we should.
Really do hope.
We should. You're going or what?
Yeah. Nah, I don't think. Well, unless somebody last minute say, "Boy, you have 2 tickets, like I haven't made an effort to get actually, because I've never know when I'm in this country again now, and that's the problem. So, folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God. God is Steve. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers.
Yeah, I'm going home right now.